This is a time for storytelling, a time to share who we are. And these moments of bringing our multiple identities to the table will really help deepen our respect for each other as individuals, to sharpen our sense of who's doing the work with me, and as well as empower our collective leadership.
And so the tradition was, even before I say good morning, it would be, Ubuntu, how are you, Gulnar? First, I see you. I affirm your humanity. I affirm your existence. So this is an Ubuntu experience where we get to see each other. And this is what you're going to do. Each person will take 5 minutes. The other two people are practicing the active listening. You don't get to interrupt, even to ask questions, or even to say, oh, I did that too, or my grandfather. No, 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 no. Zip, zip, zip. But good attention, smiling, nodding, so forth. You might have a question. Save it. Write it down for when everybody is finished, okay? In those 5 minutes, each person, now if you look on page 7. Number 1, everybody with me? I'm reading it out. Describe your background using your class, your racial, ethnic, gender, sexual orientation, religion, whatever. Identities that are important to you. Share that. This is who I am. And you want to share it in a way that people get a sense of what it was like for you. For example, if I were in the circle, I would say, I am African American. I grew up in the southern part of the United States during the 1940s. This was a time, and and I would say a little bit more. So talk, so that they get a sense of it. Now, of course, you only have 5 minutes, so now I'm giving you you want to be full, but you also want to be focused. So you're going to give your background, and I would say, we were very Christian. We went to church every Sunday, to the African Methodist Episcopal Church, whatever. And we had fans, it was very hot in Miami. We fan. At any rate, you're going to do that per part, then move on to number 2. Look at number 2. I'm asking you to please, share with these people, what have been some of the challenges or difficulties for you, coming from your class, your gender, your religious, ethnic background, whatever. Coming from my background, these were some of the challenges. These were some of the difficulties. Don't stay stuck there, though. You want to tell that, and then we're moving on. Because number 3, you want to share what have been some of the sources of strength and pride for me, coming from my background. So when people sometimes talk about the most difficult times, I've done this workshop in U.S., North America, in the Ozarks. This is where poor white people live, who don't even have bathrooms in the back. And they talk about the difficulties, but then they can also talk about, I saw my grandmother, she walked 16 miles every day to make sure that I went to school and she walked back. So in terms of source of strength and pride, what my grandmother did was a source of strength and pride, even though we were very poor. So it doesn't matter what you share, but really go for your strength and pride. And your life might not have been that hard, but still strength and pride. Number 4 is very important. You're now going to say, once you've told that give them a little slice of your life. Now, how do these identities impact you today? In your family, in your work, in your community, in your life in general. However, talk about how this background impacts you. And I expanded a little bit more because you'll remember in the goals and so forth, we talk about perception. So you also here want to hit the note. Look at the last 2 questions. How do your background, all these identities, how do they affect the way you are perceived or treated? How do they affect the way you perceive and treat others? Because it's a two-way street. So again, you're giving a little slice of your background, and then you're doing a little reflection on the meaning of this, again, in relation to the kind of work that we're doing. All right? So I want you to enjoy this and at the same time have a focus of taking it in for your own learning. Bringing your thoughts to a close, pass it to the second person if you haven't finished. Second person, make sure you're covering the difficulties and the strengths, and moving on to number 4. Or go on to third person if you're done. But did you do number 4? Did you do 4? Good, good. Yes, yes, she says, what's the matter with you? Yes, go ahead. 3.
All right. So, you had some sharing. And sometimes, as the exercise goes on, it is very natural that people kind of forget that we're talking about kind of what shaped you and growing up, and it gets into the here and now, which is going to happen inevitably. But for the most part, you were sharing your backgrounds in terms of where you came from. Before we talk about what that was, I want to ask the technical question though. What was it like for you to try to practice the active listening, if you remembered? I mean, you were doing it, but now that you think about it, what was that like, trying to really stay with that active listening?
It's also challenging on a different level because some of the people in the room, I have known them for years through emails,
Okay.
Facebook, and things like that.
Okay, here we are in the 21st century, yes,
Yeah.
go on.
So you know them, you have a history with them,
Mm-hmm.
and then suddenly you know them on a different level.
Yeah.
So there's this voice out there to be active listening, and then after this,
Then you can put all that together.
put all these pieces together is sometimes very difficult.
Very
so
challenging.
I'm trying to like hush, hush,
Hush, hush, hush. Oh, thank you, Doan, for that and for sort of demonstrating to us. You do literally have to be saying to yourself, for different reasons sometimes, hush, 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 whatever, so that you can take it in. Thank you. And we have Fatou, yes? Fatma.
It was very good that
Mhm.
I don't know how it was like this, but everybody kept into attack that they kept giving me information which I was almost asking.
Almost asking, yes. If we sometimes just wait, it will come to us. But you didn't finish. Go ahead, finish.
That's the second issue. It was very good
Bad modeling.
but I know that we are all coming from different contexts, but it's really unique that we have a lot of common things.
Okay.
Many common things.
Hold that, because that goes to the actual questions that I'm going to ask about the exercise in terms of what you got. But if I can just build on that one moment when you say, I wanted to guide her with it, and sometimes that's the impact of us asking a question. And we think I'm asking the question because I'm interested, because this is so wonderful. And so I ask the question. And it has the impact of the person telling you what you want to know as opposed to where they want to take it. And they might even get to what you want to know, but you don't know. So you have to help yourself, in a sense, by holding, here's the step back. That's a real kind of step back. And you can get sometimes a much richer experience as well as letting the person experience themselves.
Yes, at a much younger age, that it took me more time
to accumulate certain knowledge. Now, you're talking, I mean, we could really take this conversation, but you're talking about a movement that has helped change, that has been around in terms of the women's movement and social justice movements that kicked into high gear in the 60s and, onto whether you're talking civil rights movements, women's movements, LGBT movements, and it has fed a younger generation more information, expansive possibilities, options, and so forth. And so you're talking about, you then see the result of that in terms of how their lives have been guided and directed, having had infinitely more information and options and possibilities and challenges also in different ways than you did at that age. So it's, again. So it's a subject of a whole discourse, that's for sure. Anything about the active listening, and then we're going to go to more about what did you learn from this exercise? What did you learn about yourself?
maybe stuff you already knew about yourself, but in the telling of the story, some different aha. What did you learn having listened to other people's story? But I'll take any active listening to whatever you have. Part of this exercise is to be able to stand in that place and have some sense of knowing, a little bit better sense of knowing once you finish the exercise of who is doing this work? Who am I? Get a little deeper sense or a different sense in a different context. You know who you are, but it's a different context of sharing yourself with your sister, weld workers, human rights workers, and so forth. So again, sort of an expanded sense, a deeper sense of myself. Who am I doing this work? From whence do I come? And again, you only told a slice of it. It's not all of who you are, but it's a piece of it. And who are these others doing this work? Oh my, how interesting. Oh, that you come from this and that and so forth, and doing this work. So with that, we say, Ashe. So we take a breath and move on.